Okay, today we will talk about the mode of data collection. So what are the various methods in which we collect data from the people, and how do we collect data when we do a survey? So basically there are three main types of or mode of data collection. That is, one is personal interview, second one is mailing questionnaire, and the last one is telephone interviews. So we shall see what is all about and what are their advantages and disadvantages. So every method has got their own advantage and disadvantages. So let us talk about the personal interview. So personal interviews in this method is used when the researcher or when the investigator has access to all the members. So for personal interview, this particular researcher has to access to all the members to whom he wants to make a survey, and then he conducts a face-to-face interview, or there is a personal contact that is developed when personal interview happens. So this is also one of the advantages. There is a personal contact that is being made. And another advantages of personal interview is that it has the opportunity of explaining the study, and giving instructions, guidance, and answering queries to the respondents. And answers asked by the respondents can also be answered by the investigator when there is a personal contact. And the investigator can ask the respondent to expand the answer, so that misunderstanding is also curtailed. And by having a personal contact and looking at the reaction of the respondent, supplement information can also be obtained from the respondent. So what are the main demerits of personal interviews? Main thing is it is very expensive. You have to go to all the places possible, and it is a very expensive matter, and it takes longer time in personal interviews. And the presence of the researcher may inhibit some influence on the answers given by the respondent. So personal or presence of the researcher will somehow influence the respondent not to answer what he actually wants, but this presence of researcher will give a little sort of influence to what type of answers the respondent should answer. So these are some of the basic demerits and also the advantages of personal interview. So the next one is mailing questionnaire. So in this mode of data collection, questionnaire is sent through mail, and the respondent is expected to fill up or answer all the questions and return it back to the investigator. Why we do this mailing questionnaire is because it's very less expensive. It is not expensive at all, and then it can give access to all, even to the remote places, remote areas, remote rural areas. This mail can be sent, and accessibility is very high here, and it is not allowing the influence of the researcher. When there is a personal or presence of researcher, little bit of influence is given. But in this type of mailing questionnaire, there is no allowing of influence by the investigator, and the respondent can take sufficient time to give the appropriate answer. But what are the disadvantages of this mailing questionnaire? It is having less opportunity to give assistance in clarifying the doubts of the respondent, because there is no personal contact that is made. So assistance, guidance is not possible, and sometimes misunderstanding, misinterpretation of the question may happen. And there is a low response rate, which means the respondent may not even fill up the questionnaire. They might misuse the questionnaire. They may even get lost, or it may got lost on the way. Because of all these reasons, there is a very low response rate when it comes to mailing questionnaire. So the last one is telephone interviews. So in this mode of collection, an investigator or a researcher asks questions through telephone. So why do we take up this telephone interviews? Because it is very cheap and it can be conducted at a very short period of time. So assist respondent, it gives the opportunity to give assistance guidance to the respondent, because it is personal contact, though it is not face to face. And when a respondent is reluctant to answer when they are sitting face to face, and when this telephone conversation happens, that situation, that reluctant to give answers from the respondent is also avoided. So what we see here is that we have seen the advantages of telephone interviews. So what we are going to see again is the demerits of these telephone interviews. The only demerit is everybody does not have access to phone. So that is the main problem. So we can conduct the interview to only people who have an access to phone. So that is the main drawback of telephone interviews. So we have one concept, that is pilot survey or pre-testing of questionnaire. So why do we do this pilot survey or pre-testing or preliminary? We call it, providing a preliminary test. Because without having conducted a pilot survey, we cannot avoid shortcomings, drawbacks, and give improvement to our questionnaires. Once we conduct this pilot survey or pre-testing of questionnaire, we can avoid shortcomings, drawbacks, mistakes, and even improve upon our, questionnaire. So here I am giving you in detail the various advantages and disadvantages of the three mode of data collection. So in personal interview, advantages are high response rate, and then allow use of all types of questions, better for using open-ended questions. We have discussed what is open-ended questions, and allow clarification of ambiguous questions which are not clear. But disadvantages is that it is very expensive, possibility of influencing the respondents by the presence of investigator, and it takes a lot of time. In this mail interview, we have advantages of it is very less expensive, and then it can cover a large areas, even to the remote areas, and there is no influence on respondents, and maintains a anonymity of respondents. The person who is going to investigate the face is not revealed, it remains anonymous. And best for sensitive questions. Sensitive questions can be asked with the help of this mail interview. Drawbacks are that it cannot be used by illiterates. Yes, obviously. Long response time. It takes longer time and does not allow explanation. There is no room for assistance, guidance, and misinterpretation, misunderstandings about the questionnaire happens. And reactions cannot be watched since there is no personal contact between the respondent and the investigator. Telephone interview. So they are relatively low cost, relatively less influence on the respondents, and relatively high response rate. Drawbacks are that it has limited use because we can conduct these telephone views only those who have telephone, and reactions cannot be watched because face-to-face contact is not there, and possibility of influencing the respondents through the telephone conversation. So these are the basic advantages and disadvantages of the three mode of data collection to keep in mind.